How do you break a child so badly and still sleep after? That's the question I couldn't stop asking the first time I saw the case file. It was July 12th, 2025, a quiet morning in Panorama City, Los Angeles. At least it should have been quiet. A 5-year-old boy was found in a small apartment, his body broken. Elijah Hearn, just 5.
He had broken ribs, a fractured jawbone, internal organ damage.
No weapon had been officially released. No motive either. Just silence. And a child's body no one should ever have to see. 2 days later, police arrested Malik Brycson Gaddis, 29 years old. No criminal record, no known diagnosis, lived nearby, familiar to the family.
They said he was the mother's ex. Said he used to stalk her. Even kidnapped her once. But she survived. And so did her daughter.
Elijah didn't.
When they found Gaddis, he didn't resist. Didn't run. Didn't even ask why he was being arrested. He just looked at them, as if this was always going to happen.
And maybe that's the most disturbing part. Not the act, but the calm that came after it.
Because people don't wake up and do this.
They grow into it, slowly, quietly, one unseen day after another.
So the question isn't, why did he kill a child? The real question is, what kind of silence do you have to survive, to become that quiet inside? Every monster was a child once, and some of them learned to smile through bruises. I keep seeing that image in my head. A torn teddy bear, its face ripped, its seams open, pushed under a bed in a dark room. That's how I imagine Malik as a boy, hiding, clutching silence like a lifeline. We don't have files full of his childhood records. No therapist notes, no school counselor flagged him. But we do have a pattern, a whisper from a relative, something about his mother's boyfriend controlling angry, the kind of man who watches the door, not the child.
There's a reason Malik learned not to cry, because crying made things worse.
He wasn't just neglected. He was conditioned to stay small, to not need, to disappear into corners where grown-ups forgot to look. That's the essence of what we call disorganized attachment, when the person who's supposed to protect you becomes the one you fear most. It's like trying to build a house with no floor. You look fine on the outside, but inside you're falling all the time. At night, maybe there were broken dishes, maybe doors slamming, maybe silence that weighed more than shouting. And in that silence, something began to shift. Not anger, not yet. Just a question forming in a child's mind. If no one sees me, do I even matter? Psychologists talk about childhood PTSD, but it doesn't always look like war flashbacks. Sometimes it looks like a boy who flinches when you raise your voice, or a boy who never raises his own. We don't know what Malik wanted back then, but we know what he never got. Love that felt safe. Touch that didn't hurt. A voice that said, "You matter." And so something cracked. The world wasn't safe, and neither was he. You can sit in a room full of people and still feel like you're vanishing. I've seen it before. The child who becomes the ghost. Malik wasn't the loud one in class. He wasn't the troublemaker. He was the quiet one. Always at the edge of the group photo, if he was in it at all. Teachers say things like he's shy or he keeps to himself, but what they don't see is that sometimes a child keeps to himself because he's already learned connection hurts. At school, he didn't belong. He wasn't picked for games. He wasn't invited to birthdays. He didn't laugh at the right jokes, didn't wear the right shoes. And when he did try to speak up, no one listened. It's not just loneliness, it's social invisibility, a type of trauma that rarely leaves bruises but often leaves scars. The brain registers it like a wound. Some studies compare the pain of rejection to physical pain. Your nervous system reacts the same way.
Now imagine feeling that every single day.
They teased him, maybe not cruelly, but enough. Enough for a boy who already believed he didn't belong. And slowly, something started growing inside him. Not sadness, resentment, because while other kids had parents cheering at school plays, he had silence.
While other kids had best friends, he had no one even looking at him.
So he learned to look back quietly. watch everyone, study them, memorize their patterns. He didn't want to join them anymore. He wanted to escape them. Or maybe erase them. Because if no one sees you, do you even exist?
And if you don't, then maybe hurting others is the only way to be seen.
It never starts with violence. It starts with pretending not to care. Puberty is when most kids find themselves. Malik started losing himself. Something shifted in those years. Quietly at first. He began to lie. Small lies. Harmless on the surface. I didn't take it. I don't know where it went. No, I'm fine. But then came the whispers. A neighbor's cat went missing. A classmate's lunch was found destroyed. Teachers noticed him talking to himself behind the gym, pacing, muttering under his breath. Most of them just turned away. Teenagers are weird, they said. They grow out of it. But not all of them do. There's a psychological shift here we often miss. It's when fantasy becomes more real than reality. When a child starts building a private world, one where they're in control. You might know this as early conduct disorder, but behind that label is a kid who's beginning to crack under pressure.
He wants to connect but can't trust it. He wants to be seen but feels shame when he is.
So what do you do when you crave affection? But fear it too. You build a mask. Malik started acting like other kids. He mimicked laughs, repeated phrases, nodded at things he didn't understand. It wasn't connection, it was camouflage. Because real connection meant risk, but pretending. Pretending felt safe, and behind that mask something darker grew. A seed of control. Not over others yet. Just over himself. Every fake smile, every suppressed scream was a rehearsal. He started smiling when he didn't mean it.
And after a while, no one, not even Malik, could tell the difference.
Some people don't hide in shadows. They hide in plain sight. With a smile. By the time Malik turned 25, he looked like anyone else. He had a job. He had neighbors who said hi. He even dated briefly.
There was nothing strange about him, not on the outside.
He wore clean clothes, held the door open, sometimes joked about the weather.
But when you looked closer, really looked, there was nothing behind the eyes.
It's a pattern we see in high-functioning individuals with antisocial traits. They don't explode. They blend. They don't scare you. They charm you. Because they've learned that the world only accepts masks. Malik learned how to nod at the right times. Say thank you and I'm sorry even when he didn't mean it. He watched others, studied their emotions, then replayed them like lines in a play. He didn't feel love, but he knew how to fake it. He didn't care about people, but he knew how to keep them close, just long enough. We call this emotional mimicry, a way some individuals use learned empathy instead of felt empathy. And it works, for a while. Some say he even volunteered once, helped carry groceries. People remember him as polite, quiet, normal.
But he wasn't. He was empty. Not the kind of empty that cries at night.
The kind that watches, waits, smiles when he should, goes still when no one's looking.
And if anyone got too close, he backed away, or pushed them first. One woman, maybe more than one, left him. They said he was too intense, controlling, cold. But they never saw the full picture. Because Malik never let the mask slip. How long can someone pretend to be human before they stop trying?
And what happens when pretending isn't enough?
Everyone has a final straw. For Malik, it was a door that didn't open.
He had been watching her, the woman he used to call his own.
Not officially, not anymore. But in his mind, she never really left. She was the mother of two. One child from him, the other Elijah, just 5. A boy that reminded him too much of everything he wasn't. Reports don't say when the obsession began, but I believe it started the day she chose to live without him. And worse, when she chose to love another child more. He started showing up near her place. Neighbors said they saw him across the street leaning on his car, pretending to scroll his phone. He wasn't there to hurt her. Not at first. He just wanted to be let in again. But every time the door stayed closed, That's where the break begins. In criminal psychology, we call it narcissistic collapse, when a person whose identity depends on control suddenly loses it. And Malik couldn't handle losing control. He sent messages, left voicemails, maybe even gifts. When those went unanswered, something inside him curdled. We see this sometimes in stalkers. They don't want reconciliation. They want to rewrite the story. And one morning, Malik decided to write the ending himself. We still don't know how he got in. No forced entry, no noise reported, just silence. Inside, Eligia was there. Small, innocent, defenseless. And in Malik's twisted perception, the boy became the symbol of rejection, of replacement, of everything he couldn't control.
He knocked once. No one answered, so he let himself in. Some people scream when they snap. Others go completely silent.
We don't know the exact order of events that morning, only the aftermath.
But in my work, I've learned to listen between the details, to imagine not what happened, but how it must have felt.
Not to him, to the boy, and to Malik. When he crossed that threshold, it wasn't rage that led him. Not the kind that explodes. It was something colder, slower. Dissociation, that eerie detachment where the body moves but the mind floats above it. He didn't feel heat or hate. He felt nothing. This is something we see in offenders who reach a control climax. Not a loss of control, but the absolute gain of it.
For once, Malik wasn't the outsider. He was the center.
For once, no one ignored him. A 5-year-old looked up and saw him. Only him. That look may have been the last real thing Malik ever felt. We know the child suffered severe injuries. Cracked ribs, fractured jaw, liver damage. That kind of violence doesn't come from panic. It comes from precision, from pressure. And somewhere in that moment, somewhere in the breaking, Malik found a stillness he'd never felt before. He wasn't flinching. He wasn't hiding. He was in control of another life, of silence itself. That's what makes it terrifying. It wasn't a burst of madness. It was calculated, internal, like turning off a light and finding peace in the dark.
He didn't even cry.
Not when it happened, not after. Because whatever Malik once was, he had finally become something else. What does a man do after he breaks the world? Malik didn't run. He didn't change his clothes, didn't scrub the scene, didn't pack a bag or book a ticket. He stayed in the same apartment complex, eating, sleeping, breathing, like nothing had happened.
Some killers panic, some spiral. Malik slowed down.
Neighbors said he looked normal, calm, quiet. A little tired maybe, but still nodded when someone passed by. That's a type of reaction we see in offenders who experience what's called post-crime detachment. It's not guilt, it's not fear. It's the sudden vacuum that comes after the act is done, when the storm inside has passed, and there's just silence. Some call it emotional flatlining, but I don't think Malik felt nothing. I think he felt relief. Because everything he had rehearsed in his mind, every fantasy, every power trip had finally been real. And it didn't break him. It didn't wake him up. It soothed him.
He had seen terror, felt the boy's breath stop, watched the body go still.
And then he walked out.
Closed the door.
Went back to whatever he called a life. It's possible, no likely, that he felt stronger after. Not weaker. That's something we don't like to talk about, because it shatters the myth that killers are just broken humans making mistakes. Some of them aren't broken. They're satisfied. He said nothing, but his silence sounded like relief. And that's the scariest kind of quiet. When the mask comes off, what's underneath? They found him on July 15th, 3 days after the murder. Still in Panorama City, still quiet. There was no chase, no shouting, just officers knocking on a door and Malik answering it. He didn't resist. Didn't ask why. Didn't even blink, they said. He just looked at them expressionless.
Like this was always going to happen.
That's what haunts me. Because arrest usually cracks something open in people. The fear, the guilt, the panic.
But Malik, he sat down, calm, hands resting on his thighs, asked for a glass of water. And then nothing.
That moment when a person is stripped of their freedoms, their excuses, their noise, that's when we see who they really are.
And in Malik there was nothing left to see. It reminded me of a concept we often use in forensic interviews: ego death, when a person has no more mask to wear and no identity behind it. It's not remorse, it's vacancy. In the holding cell, he didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't lash out. Some say he was in shock, but I think it was something else. He was used to being unseen. Now he was being watched, finally, but not for the reasons he once dreamed of. And he didn't know how to play that role, because there's no script for monsters in handcuffs.
He asked for a glass of water, and nothing else.
No confession, no apology.
Just a man with empty eyes sitting quietly behind a pane of glass, like he was waiting for someone to explain who he really was. This story didn't begin with murder, it began with silence. A silence that started in a home no one checked, in a childhood no one asked about, in a school where he sat in the back row and disappeared. Malik Brycson Gaddis didn't come out of nowhere. He was shaped by absence, by neglect, by something we still don't want to see.
It would be easier, simpler if we could just call him a monster, lock him away and forget, but the truth is more uncomfortable.
He wasn't born evil. He was built in pieces, over years, by moments, by choices, by silence. In psychology, we talk about the accumulation of neglect, when no single trauma defines a life but hundreds of small abandonments do. That's what I believe happened here.
Not a sudden snap, a slow burn.
One that started with a boy hiding under the bed and ended with a boy lying broken on the floor. And the hardest question, the one that keeps me up at night, is this. What if someone had seen Malik sooner? What if a teacher had stopped and asked? What if a neighbor knocked? What if we paid more attention to quiet boys with hollow eyes? Would Elijah still be alive? I don't know.
But I do know this.
Malik is not the only one.
There are others like him.
Walking through schools, sitting in lunchrooms, watching from apartment windows, waiting for someone to see them before they find the wrong way to be seen. Because crimes like this don't begin with blood. They begin with the kind of silence that echoes for years, until someone finally screams. And if we keep turning away, how many more Maliks are waiting in the dark?